being through the grieving process before we really get into this matchmaking.
Right.
And it's interesting because Eddie's going through some health issues, and he says, prior to meeting anyone, you want to be up front and say, this is where I'm at in my life, and go in truly open and transparent. Part of going through all of this.
As far as when you start dating?
I've lost my husband. I've lost my wife.
And I don't think there's any particular time frame for your grief. There are 5 stages of grief, as I mentioned. But every situation is different. Where in Tina's situation, it was more sudden. Cindy was over a couple of years, still both difficult. I can't imagine anything more difficult than losing a spouse or significant other than maybe a child. And so for everyone, it's different. And being younger is even more challenging because, like they said before, you do expect to be a widow or widower at an older age, and someone had health issues, and but remembering that you still do deserve love, and once you've gone through that process. Oh, and what I was getting to is everyone's grief is different in timing. I've had clients that they were the caregiver for a long period of time while the person was ill, like even a decade. So they might be ready the next day because it had changed the dynamics of the relationship when you become a caregiver versus someone's significant other. So don't feel guilty about the timing and about, letting your walls down to fall in love again. Because I know it can be, like you said, scary, and you're not sure what you're going to get into. And then Tina had mentioned finding yourself and learning, who you are again. Because I think when you get married, sometimes at a young age, you fall into what your spouse likes to do a little more than what you kind of like to do sometimes. And then that's okay because you find things that you both enjoy doing together. So I always like to say, remember what you liked when you were like 10 years old. Was it fishing? Was it outdoors? Was it, fashion? So those are the things that you'll probably like again. And it's okay to have your own interests and dreams and follow your dreams still. And
All right, so what'd you like when you were 10 years old, Tina?
Oh, that's a tough time. That's a tough question for her. That's a tough question.
Yes, Tina, tell us when you were 10.
Oh, that's a whole nother show. Where were you living when you were 10?
Well, Cindy, were you there?
No, but I know.
Or you know?
Oh, I know.
Well, tell us. Share.
Where were you living
Share.
when you were 10?
Well, I was born in Georgetown, Guyana, so I'm Guyanese.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Very unique.
Yeah.
Parents came to the States, and then my sister Amanda and I have a younger sister, Amanda, who came with them. Did not have, nothing I want to get onto on the show of my childhood, and kind of led me to who I am today. But I think that it also was part of my journey, was, understanding kind of what I went through during my childhood growing up, and losing Roy, and sort of brought me to who I am today. So it's been a lot of self-reflection with all of that. And I think in those moments, I think for me, what I've tried to find over the last 9 years is happiness, and that I deserve that. Because I think that, what I went through as a child, and what I went through losing Roy, I think that didn't help either.
Well,
for me at that point, because I felt like, okay, let me have one good thing. Let me have something that's really for me and makes me happy. And to not have either one of those has been 9 years of me trying to find that.
Yeah.
And I'm not there. I'm not there. Definitely every day is reflection and trying to figure out, what's next and where do I go from here. But I know I deserve it. I know I deserve to be happy and to live the life that I want, for sure.
well, you skirted around all that answer.
It's hard to, it's hard to talk about. Yeah, it's hard to talk about your
Let's
childhood.
just say this.
I'm very private about it.
Yeah.
But
Let's just say this. Your mom was a beauty queen.
Yeah.
Miss Guyana.
Yeah, she was Miss
so
Guyana.
Tina had a
She
tough,
was a Miss Guyana.
a tough mom.
So there was a lot of, and I think that,
And I'll just keep it at that.
yeah, I
That's
think
it.
when you come from a third, I was born in a third world country, obviously. Guyana, I think a lot of people should know where it is, but it's where the Jonestown massacre happened with
Jim Jones.
the Jim Jones and the
Wow, I
Kool-Aid.
remember that.
So when you hear the saying, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid," that obviously came from Jonestown, Guyana. So that didn't lead to my childhood, but I think that there was, my mom was a beauty queen. I think that, when I reflect and look back on her and her expectations and the mothering style, I think
Barbara
I can
was tough.
confidently say she probably shouldn't have been a mom, because I
We'll
don't
leave
think
it at
she had the
that.
tools I don't think she had the tools to raise women, girls.
Linda, when you're doing matchmaking, how in depth of the process do you go in getting everyone's stories and backgrounds? So when you're matching them,
That's what I was going to ask.
I take a lot of that into consideration because I have clients not just in Florida, but nationally and internationally. So your cultural, the way you were raised, those kinds of things, it's all your key life values, whether it's faith, whether it's lifestyle, morals, values, all those things come into play when it comes to being compatible with someone else. So I just want to encourage you again, Tina, to not be too hard on yourself.
Thank you.
You like,
Give myself a break.
yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
100%.
Give yourself some grace.
And part of that is I know I've been, I can't even compare a divorce, obviously, but I've been divorced, and you are angry. You're angry at the world. You're angry at God. And in your case, I can see that. And I recently lost a very good friend, which again, I don't want to compare to the death of a spouse or significant other, but it made me kind of reflect for the first time. That was the closest person to me that's ever died, besides a grandparent. That's different, that I want to be a better person, and we're all works in progress. We're not there, but thank goodness, we may not be where we want to be, but at least we're not where we used to be. And it makes me want to be more forgiving, more loving, easier, even if it's to ourselves, more forgiving to ourselves and more loving, and allowing our walls down so that we can love again.
Right.
And take that risk. It is a risk, obviously, but
Well, love has a formula. Then is what I'm hearing. You got to have a formula to fall in love.
Do
There's
tell.
a lot of mixtures in here that goes on, and these mixtures, like my father, may he rest in peace, always said to me, is like a record player, and you got to turn the volume up, got to bring the bass down. Everything changes day to day to day.
yeah.
So yesterday is not who I am today, and it's definitely not going to be who I am tomorrow. But what I like about, what is the name of your business?
It's Prestige Matchmaking Pros.
Okay, and how do people find Prestige?
I have a website, so you can go to either prestigesinglesmeet.com or Prestige Matchmaking Pros. I also have the vanity number that Dawn mentioned, so it's 1-800-ROMANTIC. It rings right to my cell phone.
it's a nice number, right?
It's a great
like
number.
If you can get it.
Love it.
1-800-ROMANTIC, you guys. Let's put that on her lower thirds.
And the interesting aspect is that you never find it to be a challenge that everybody has a partner waiting for them.
I never try to prejudge a client like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so challenging to match this personality or this type, because every time I do that, I will sign up the quirkiest person and
it
they get
works.
snagged up and engaged right away. So I just,
True.
there's a lid for every pot. And
Sure
sometimes
is.
it's timing because we're all in different stages of our dating. Some people are just getting out there for the first time. It sounds like you ladies have tried, most of my clients have tried the whole online swipe left, swipe right, Hinge, Bumble. They've all tried it. And it can be, like you said, a shit show. Oops, can I say that online?
You said,
Did.
but it can be.
Little too late.
And so that's why I work, this is personal matchmaking, and I work very closely with my clients. I hear their stories, and I want to know who you're compatible with. I have indicators and different things that help guide me to know who the right match might be. And I don't get it right the first time, obviously, but you're meeting new people, you're getting out there, you're making new friends, you're experiencing dating again. And so the widowers maybe hadn't dated for a number of years, and they're getting out there for the first time. And I try to make it fun.
Do they
Bring the
tell
joy back
you-
to dating.
Do they tell you everything, or you sort of read between the lines?
They tell me everything.
Everything.
I mean, yeah, prostate
Everything.
problem. Someone left them. Their husband left them
Sometimes
for
more than you
another
wanna
guy. I mean, I hear it
You
all.
hear it all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think it changes what you ladies looked for when you were young and got married. It's different than what you're looking for now.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to have any more kids, or maybe you are.
No.
I don't know. So what you looked for a father, whether it be religion, financial, is different than you're going to look for in the next stage of life.
Absolutely. It
Absolutely.
changes. You're at a different place. For me, I would look for someone who doesn't have young children because I want to be on the go or, whatever. And so that was a big thing. And that's probably what people request with you, what they're looking for. Or, if they have young children, maybe they want somebody that understands that has young children.
Right.
Yeah.
Certain deal breakers when you get to a certain. It's not like we're dating in our 20s anymore, where
Right,
you're
yeah.
meeting someone at a bar at the college dorms. It's
No.
it's a little bit different, and
What are some of the deal breakers, Linda?
deal breakers. Well, it's different for everybody. Some of the most popular deal breakers. smoking.
I feel like I want a list.
That's a
Deal
popular
breakers,
one.
Relationship deal breakers.
Being a-
Smoking.
Being a savior.
That's
Like-
why I
like
qualify
someone
and
to save you.
screen everyone. I mean, I do background checks. I do criminal background checks.
Take
Take
notes.
notes.
Take notes.
Take notes. You don't want to be a savior because a lot of people will think
Some
that
people
they
want to
wanna
be saved.
No. The ladies
Some
don't wanna
people
be.
do want to be
They
saved.
wanna feel
Rescued. Then
safe.
you have the rescue
Rescued.
daters.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
wanna feel safe
Yeah.
doesn't mean to save me.
The rescue daters.
Yeah.
Let
No.
me save you.
Yeah,
Put
but
my
you know
jacket
what? Go to
out.
church. Find a priest. Look for a rabbi.
Or
look
the
for a
guy will
monk.
have a pattern. Typically, it's a man. It can be a woman where they've dated someone who's maybe not as healthy. They have issues. They're not financially stable or something, and so they're always rescuing the next person. And
Do you go
that
into
usually ends. It
finances?
ends because you want to be we're all a little cuckoo, right? But we want to be halfway healthy before you enter into a relationship and bring
Yeah.
someone else
That's a
in.
good question. She wants
Yeah.
to know, do you look at finances?
I mean, is that a
Oh,
thing?
absolutely. You're allowed
Finances?
to ask for what you have to offer.
How do you ask that? What do you have to
Yeah.
offer?
How much are you worth?
Typically,
What are
the
you worth?
guys.
Let me see a W-2.
I have a lot of professionals, retired professionals, high net worth clients, but typically the guys don't care. That you have to be equal or anything like that.
Guys care. Let me tell you, a guy care. Guy ain't gonna tell you the truth. If a woman is making money, he gets very intimidated. All of a sudden, he turns into Dr.
When
Jekyll
she
and
makes
Mr.
more
Hyde.
than him,
Yeah.
yeah,
You think so?
a
You
lot
don't
of
think
times
it's-
they don't like that.
Oh,
Really?
And in Florida, I was going to ask her this. In Florida, guys in this state, unlike New York, in this state, very easily intimidated by a woman's strength, by a woman's financial records, by a woman that tells you, listen, buddy, this is the way I'm going to do something. And guys begin to shy away.
Really?
And they move. In Florida, I'm going to tell you, good luck with that.
There
Just
can
saying.
be some insecurities if a woman is extremely type A personality. And it's okay. Usually that's the ones they're attracted to is the problem.
Unless you can't get.
Yeah, but then the thing is, I always try to explain to the woman to bring your feminine side to the date, though. Don't leave the working girl at home because they see that every day in the office. So you want to bring your feminine side, your maybe more nurturing, softer side. And again, it goes back to maybe letting your walls down a little bit and being vulnerable.
Cindy and I always say that we don't need a man. We want a man, but we don't need them.
We
and
don't.
I think that when you go in with that thought process, you sort of can pick. You have your choice of what that looks like. If you want someone, that's your choice. If you need someone, then there's obviously other factors that go into that, and then you're sort of don't have control
Do
over
you think
what.
that's intimidating? Because you bring
We
bring
say,
in this
well, now
energy.
we've said it to everybody.
No, we've said it to everyone. But I think there's power in that. I think there's power in knowing, especially we've been in relationships. So we know
Yeah.
now we can choose to have, to want someone. We don't need someone. We do very well. We take care of ourselves. Obviously, we
We've got
don't.
great resources of friends.
We have amazing friends, amazing families, amazing jobs that support us. So we could, technically, we can,
Cherry pick.
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
let me ask you a question. The word control. Delicate word? Control? Woman
Probably
type?
not a great word to use.
But it does exist.
But it does exist, and I think that for me, why I use that word is the fact that we are in a great place that we can choose what's good for us, not because we need to have that, because we want to have it. Whether that's we choose someone who isn't as financially stable as us or needs assistance with that from us to help them build that up, or someone that is that can give us what we want and what we're looking for, but we're also able to do that for ourselves, and I think that's really important for us.
Lynn, do you think men are needier? They need more nurturing than women where we are right now? He's shaking his head yes.
What's a nurturing? What is it?
It used to be the connotation was women needed to be taken care of, right? We stayed home, we raised the kids, but we needed that financial nurturing. We'll take care of you, from husbands to women. And what I'm realizing, I'm going to ask, do you think men are now needier than the perceived women were? That we actually hit our strengths. We didn't step into who we were, probably because of the media and what society was. He says yes, men are needier. What do you think?
I don't know if it's they're needier. I think women have evolved to becoming more independent in a lot of different ways.
I agree.
And so it can make it more challenging for both parties. I feel like we've tended to I'm going to go ahead and say it, demasculate men a little bit. You know, we need to kind of go back to, I'm an old fashioned traditional matchmaker. I like it when the man's the man, and I want him to be chivalrous and a gentleman. But we as women then, as strong, you know, independent business women, we have to be willing to then, you know, kind of not show
Yes.
that strong side,
So true.
It's
you know,
balance.
in the beginning, especially when you're
So
courting and, you know, and I want, you know, I hope men can step up and not be intimidated, but it, you know, I can see why they would be a little bit.
Nikki,
So it's
is
a
he
balance.
chivalrous?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. No, you're
Love
not.
that.
He is.
Well, I think society, the way things are nowadays, has changed. You know, a guy has to be consistent. It's not about being nice to somebody today and then tomorrow you go back to being Mr.
I think
A.
everyone has to be consistent within the
But you have to be
relationship.
consistent one way or the other. Either
Yeah.
who you are is going to come
But
out.
women too.
Women too.
We can't be
Yes.
crazy one day and then like, oh, honey, I love you the next.
I love
We
you
gotta
next.
All right.
Right.
We have to be some sort, or you're going to think we're, you know.
Or you just got to have a smooth transition.
You know, it's funny because
Got to be smooth
I always
transition.
relate, I always relate a relationship to a business agreement because it's
You've always
money.
said that.
It's money.
there is
This is all about
that
money.
aspect to it.
what
It's
he
kind of
thinks.
the negotiating a little bit of,
You know, it's
how
really
things should
nice when you
be.
live in a penthouse and when you have to move to the basement, all sorts of stuff begins to fall off the bus.
Right.
True?
Yeah.
You know, when you have that outside pressure, you have to have 3, 4 jobs to buy a burger, and somebody's sitting home. It's, you know, you gotta have to be a little smart upstairs to get this thing worked out.
Sure.
So you have to change every day.
But can you imagine telling your kids, 24, 28, 30, it's a business deal. Look at it from the financials versus you marry for love.
I
You
say
marry,
that here. I wouldn't say that to them.
but
I say it here.
but you could
I
say
say
it.
call her.
But
They might hear you. They might be hearing you.
But divorce or losing a spouse, maybe it is more of a business relationship because you're looking at financials. Or you're not. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. One of the things I wanted to agree with was the traditional values. I think in the late 90s, in the 90s, I was learning to be independent while I was married, and I became this very independent. Maybe I did demasculate my husband some. And, you know, I found in my second long-term relationship how to balance that. Like, I could be strong because I had a supporter, but I knew when to tone it down. It was a fine balance on my behalf. And you know what? It felt really good to be the woman and he was taking care of certain things.
Yeah.
And now that I've been alone for a few years, I have to really learn how to tone it down.
Right.
Don't you think? Like,
Yeah.
because now I'm my sole caretaker, period,
Yeah.
that I find myself to be challenging. And I've got to step down a little bit. And it's okay to be strong, independent, and everything else. And not
I
need a
agree.
man, but want one.
Yeah. I
But
agree.
it's a fine balance. And I, too, like those traditional ways. Let me tone it down. It's hard. I find myself like I have to really stop and slow down my tone and just speaking or
true.
how I want to do things. Like, you know what? If you don't put a shelf up, I've got the power drills. I'm going to do it myself.
I love it.
So true.
I mean, my dad taught me how to change tire. I mean, I could change an oil in a car. But you know what? I
Listen,
don't
my
do
car
those
needs
things.
an oil change.
Some tires too.
I don't come
I
cheap.
got you.
Some
I don't come
tires, too.
cheap.
Yeah.
But you know what? I have to learn that balance.
Yeah.
And I like those traditional ways.
Or you have to
I
ask
do.
somebody to turn up their bell.
But Linda
Yes.
also offers a coaching. So
Well,
you
that's
have
what I
to-
was
And
just going to
that's-
ask.
that's
Do you,
part of it.
Yeah, do you coach that part? That's where I was going with that. Because I realized it because someone called me out on it.
And
I wish I had that
obviously
coaching.
I'm biased, but I feel like my clients, because they're accountable to the system that I provide them, not just me. They're accountable. I'm getting feedback on the dates from the women that go out with the men, let's say. And so I feel like they're less likely to play games. I'm not saying you can't meet someone through Tinder, Bumble, or I don't want to plug them, but through other social friends and things. But you have to ultimately, it comes down to, do you trust that person? Do you trust they're, genuine and sincere and they are who they say they are and they have the right motives? And when I was here that month ago, Freddie, he alluded to like men, it's more difficult for men to match men. I think you had mentioned.
I had asked.
You know, it's
Yeah,
women. We're all pretty simple. We all kind of. I mean,
There
we
ain't
don't. We
nothing
want
simple
commitment. We
about
want.
you, honey.
What's that?
There ain't nothing simple about a woman.
Okay. Here, let me simplify it for you then.
A man.
We want stability, which means we want a commitment because we're geared for security, right?
Agreed.
So most often that means marriage. If both partners it's a race to the back of the line. You're always putting the other one first. Isn't that a win-win? And then I don't know, I can't speak for anyone else, but I want to wake up in the morning and look him in the eyes and say, "You are the sexiest man alive, and I'm so glad your penis belongs to me." I mean, it's that simple.
And there it is.
I
love it.
And that's probably just me.
Josh, I guess
That's
they had
a
their ears
T-shirt.
on.
Somebody get a pen.
We
and
need a
stick it on the
T-shirt that
T-shirt.
says that.
I guess they had their ears on.
Your penis belongs to me. So today's word of the day is your penis
I'm
belongs
going
to
to
me.
use that line. I love it.
I got more too. That's just the
And
basics.
she's a faith-based coach.
But the object of the game,
Well, God created sex, so.
I can't get that out
You
of my
just
head.
can't beat that one.
Significant other
Lost all
saying, your penis
concentration.
belongs to me. I'm like, holy smoke. Run out here, give me some tape.
Scared you.
But the object of the game is that you have to be comfortable enough to have that conversation.
Yeah.
You know, I think that a man has to earn a woman's trust. Always said that. Always, always, always. Because guys seem to think that they can walk out the door and not have accountability.
Right.
Okay? Because I've heard that nonsense before and I've seen it.
Or they have 2 or 3, sort of lined up. And I think that comes from insecurity. Like if they're afraid too, one's going to fall through, well, then you've got the 2 others.
Back
So, and the one that usually falls through is the one they like the most, but
Then
they're not fully in. You
but then
you
there's
gotta be all in.
accountability on both sides of the equation.
Yes.
A guy wants to feel needed.
Yes.
A woman wants to feel safe
And appreciate it.
and appreciated.
Respected.
So, it's funny. When I was married to my second wife, I bought buildings that I had to go fix. And this
Okay.
is nothing against Michelle. I think Michelle is a sweetheart. She gave me 2 boys, and I'm very happy and very proud of that.
Yes.
And I had buildings, and my kids went with me to the buildings, and Michelle asked me, "Where are the buildings?" Now, I was married 17 years. In 17 years, you're not going to know where the buildings are?
So she wasn't really taking an
That's right.
interest.
Which is fine. That's
Yeah.
okay. But what I'm saying is if that's the type of relationship you want to have into, then be prepared to talk about it. You
But
know, I need a
was
little
she
bit.
like that when you got married? Or it evolved?
Probably.
You
It's
didn't
been a
know.
while. It's on me. I blame me 50% of picking what I picked and not choosing what I picked. Pick what I picked for different reasons. But at the same time, there has to be this communication. And unfortunately, communication doesn't stop today. It's an ongoing. My parents were married 69 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Love
I said
it.
to my dad,
That's
what is-"
amazing.
I said, Dad, what is the secret to being married to Mom for 69 years? He goes, what?
Selective here.
What? And I said, what do you mean, what? He says, you don't listen to everything she says. Because she's going to throw stuff at you. And you have to say, okay, then we find a way. Simple. It's really simple if you keep it simple.
Yes, dear, this is the response. And happy wife, happy life. Have you heard that one?
I know we got to go to commercial. But
No,
before
wait
we
a
do,
minute,
I
wait a minute.
I got to ask Linda about her coaching,
I want to ask Linda the major question today.
which is
So a woman says, I want a glass of water.
We're going with this water
And you
thing.
bring a glass of water. And they go, I don't want a glass of water.
who
Don't
does
you
that
understand?
to you?
Who did you bring?
movie.
Who did you bring?
White man can't jump. The movie when she said
Freddie.
I don't recall that movie.
Oh.
I mean, I recall the
great
movie
movie.
vaguely,
You
but
You know
not
what I'm
that
talking
scene.
about?
Yes.
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 And I'm
That
glad
was an
you're here
awesome
because we're
movie,
going to
yeah.
get the man's perspective on all of
Yes.
this next.
Right.
But remember that part in the movie? I want a glass of water. Well, he's that's not what I want. What the hell, man?
Maybe she was just crazy.
No. This
That
is
she was.
No,
You
she
know,
was-
she
there's
was
a
crazy.
significance-
but
So your
there was a
picker's
plot
broken.
to
You
it.
picked the wrong girl.
there's a
picker's broken.
There's a significance of that line in the movie. It's a famous line
Yeah.
because men don't understand. Men are from Mars or
Women are from Venus.
And women don't always understand what women are saying is what they were trying to get them across.
We don't understand what we're saying sometimes.
Yes, I know that. You can have the same
Right?
conversation going in this
Like, we
direction.
don't even know what we're feeling sometimes. We're
And we'll
just
never
feeling
admit it. We'll never admit it.
Never.
Never.
Yeah. And
Never.
The point of that line was, I don't want you to fix everything. Okay, but
Right.
I want you to
To listen,
understand
listen.
what I need.
There's something
Yeah.
to fix.
Yeah.
He's
It's just
100%
there's so
right.
many different aspects of that line. that it's absolutely incredible. I mean, it's, you know.
And
think
I saw
use
that
line
movie 30
myself.
years ago, and I still remember one line.
I know, you still talk about that all the time.
I do,
a good
because
line.
I thought it was so significant.
It was. It really was.
And I'm
you're
actually-
watching a movie through the perspective of somebody who's really trying to learn. Okay, it's a different story than watching it as a person who really doesn't care. You know.
I need to
and-
watch
and
it again.
The fortunate or unfortunate part of me is I always love to find these types of things in movies and in songs, and anything I do, I always try to find the good points. And that was a really significant point.
It was.
That's because you're Eddie Smiles.
No, Eddie's right. Eddie's right. And I always wanted to ask a matchmaker. You know, you are a very dynamic person.
Well, thank you,
Because
Freddie.
to have a relationship with you, man, woman, or child, whoever it is, it's got to be the most interesting thing in the world.
I've made every relationship mistake on the planet. So learn from my mistakes, or here, take my advice, because obviously I'm not using it.
But you know what a man is going to think before he even thinks.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh, I think so.
Because it's like the doctor who smokes, you know, when I'm in it, I don't always make the right choices.
Well, it's like the guy that says, "Doc, my elbow hurts when I go like this." So he says, "Stop doing it."
I can see it in other people so clearly, but, you know, sometimes I look through my own
Woman over
rose-colored
there
glasses.
sizes up the room is all I'm saying.
Well, Cindy says she needs help mellowing out a little bit, lowering the walls, the balance. Your coaching program helps with that. So you match them and say,
I
well,
believe
Cindy,
so.
let's work with this. If you think we need help with that, is that part of what you offer?
It is. I have like a set standard sort of 8-week journey, because it takes about, 30 to 60 days to change a habit type of thing. And it sort of takes you through all the progressions. Like, I know you're widowed, but, for example, letting go of the past and the forgiveness stuff, maybe releasing unhealthy sexual soul ties, because some people have been in and out of relationships or divorces and
What's
things
an
like that. That
unhealthy
may not
sexual
apply.
soul tie?
Well, I mean, we're made up of body, soul, and spirit. So our body, we can all see what that is. Our soul is our mind, our will, and emotions, and then our spirit is that other entity that we can't see. We just kind of know it's there and feel it. So I believe, when you have a lot of multiple sexual encounters, if you're out there dating, you can create a bond. It is what bonds us ultimately. It's one of the things that bonds couples together. And so sometimes my clients need to break away from that because they still feel very attached to a former ex, whether it's a spouse or a dating relationship.
I feel like they said we could have this conversation for 10 hours because the conversation just continues.
Evolves.
Because since you so eloquently brought up sex, Linda.
Was that eloquent?
Changes
Is that
what you
sex?
wanted in your 20s and 30s, or what you thought you needed and wanted. And then you've got loss, and then you've got hormones, and then there's jobs and empowerment, and then you're trying to balance it, and then what you really want in the bedroom for men and women, not just for women, but everyone, their bodies change and what it's like to get
Well,
back
you
to
don't
that.
lead- you don't lead in the bedroom. You lead in a relationship.
Yeah, but when you were 25, you led
lead
in
in
the
the bedroom.
bedroom. See, at least we come to agreement on that.
I do have 21 compatibility indicators, and I think question 4 has to do with your level of affection. So in other words,
Affection
an-
or affection?
affection.
Affection. I thought she said
Well,
Because
depends on the
chemistry
situation.
is more important to some people than others. And I always say I would not, and I score you on a 1 to 5. I wouldn't want to match a prude with a nymphomaniac. They're probably not going to get along. So, and it's okay whatever your level is. There's no right or wrong level, but you want to maybe be closer to the same
Right up your
level.
a prudомaniac.
All right, so I have to ask.
The prude wins.
A prudомaniac.
Remember, it used to be like the 3-date rule before you actually were intimate.
That's a good question.
What's it like now?
There's
Yeah,
a,
and it
there's a,
used to
there's
be,
a
it
rule.
used to be how long do we date before we have sex,
Yes.
right? But in today's era,
It's different.
it's how long
Look,
should
he
we
looks
be having
up.
sex before we call this a relationship? Well,
I think there are also-
backwards.
I think
it's
it's also like, are there going to be pancakes after? That could make a difference as well.
Pancakes after.
Breakfast.
Yeah,
Three
is there going to be
rules? I didn't even
pancakes
know there was a
involved
three
after
rules.
that?
I
Are
don't
we
know.
gonna
It
get some
depends if you
pancakes
like
out of
morning
it?
sex or evening sex. I don't get pancakes at night for dinner.
So it's not the 3 dates before sex. It's how many times do we have sex before we're actually in a committed relationship?
Wait a minute. And who,
seems to
who
be that way
Who
with some people.
dictates whether or not the move is going to happen? Is it he or she? Who dictates this? Who says Because when she starts flapping her eyes, it can mean I got my contact lens is loose or something.
Whoever gets there first.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you very much.
Linda, I'll go through this whole coaching. What is it?
I coach my clients based on their personality. You know, I do faith-based coaching, and so I go by the golden rule of
Yeah, but you told me God created sex.
Wait a minute,
so
wait a
we're
minute.
God
on-
we
did
need to
create
go
sex, but he
on.
also, I believe he created it in the context of a committed relationship, and in my eyes, that is marriage. So
Okay.
I advise my clients, please, you know,
No sex.
be in a committed relationship before you
No sex.
engage in intimacy. I prefer in a perfect world, the first time is your wedding night. It's not a perfect world. It's not realistic when you're 50 and older usually, because you haven't, it's not like you're losing your virginity for the first time.
And
So,
it's
yeah.
not that you
I
should.
might be losing my virginity.
I don't
for the first
judge.
time.
I do match
you can
based
act
on
that
that,
way.
and you'd be surprised how many men say, like faith-based men, Christian men,
faces?
say they would be willing to wait. They don't want to, but they'd be willing to wait, if the girl really wanted to wait.
Really?
Yeah, I'm amazed.
Really?
If it was the right girl, because they kind of, don't you respect that a little bit, that she's not just out throwing it out there to anyone, and she really values it, and that communication.
But what
between
about if
two
the
of you.
chemistry is hot and heavy?
Well, it depends on how much alcohol's involved. I don't know.
Cold shower.
Depends whether you're making coffee or
Completely
not that
lose
night.
control.
This coming from the woman that just did the quote of the day. And they all laugh.
Although it sounds a whole lot better from her than you.
It does.